Dad, a lot of people got a lot of questions. I'm up with almost 700 or 800 questions. And one of a lot of people said, I'm not going to read out everybody who said, but asked about how did the Grapevine shows start? And then how did that turn into the Don Cherry Grapevine bars?
Well, we have 20 of them all over the country right now at Don Cherry Sports Grill. And I remember when Ralph Mellanby, executive producer of Hockey Night in Canada, said, we're thinking of having a new show on and we're thinking of putting it on. Where we put it on? Hamilton.
It was in Hamilton, yeah.
Yeah, it's at Channel 11, I remember. And I said, well, okay. And I remember, and they didn't think I could carry it, and they were so right. And I remember I had a meeting, and we had the two comedians come on, Jimmy
Loftus and Bill Lynn.
Yeah, Bill Lynn. And so we had a meeting, and they said, this is what they're going to do. And so in one order, they said, well, I think they're great. What do you think, Don? I think I'll have another beer. So we went on, and I remember the very first show. Ralph Mellanby was there, and we were in the back, and we had a pretty big crowd out the front. And I could not say, here we have Mr. Hockey, I have Mr. Elbows, Gordie Howe. I could not say that. I remember I said, I should go home. I'm just so terrible. I'm going to go home. And Ralph Mellanby, and the more I screwed up, the more the people laughed. And the more the people laughed, the more I screwed up. So finally, Ralph didn't know what to do. I mean, here I am. I'm supposed to be the star. He said, just turn. There was a big picture of my lovely dog, Bull Terrier, right next to me. And he said, just turn and say it to Blue. And you know what? From then on, every time I'd get screwed up, everything, I'd just look at Blue. And tonight, we have Gordie Howe on, Mr. Hockey, who watch out for his elbows. And I said it as clear as a bell. And from then on, that's how we went. Now, how they got started.
Well, do you remember what happened with that picture?
Yeah, I don't want to tell you.
It was the wrap-up party, and somebody stole it.
Somebody stole it, and I don't want to. I'm ashamed of myself when I think of how I went on after. Everybody's happy and everything. The show was over. Anyhow, somebody stole a picture. Great big lovely picture. So anyhow, how it got started. Then we had this bar, and the show was so bad. I thought it was so bad that I think people tuned in to see how bad I was, and then you took over, Tim, and it was pretty good.
Well, the one thing you got to people remember too is that you were only on TV for maybe like a year, so it wasn't like you were like a seasoned veteran on TV.
And it's a funny thing as we think about it. There was no TSN.
No, it was really it really was groundbreaking because there was no TSN, there was no Sportsnet. I don't even think there was a sports talk radio back then.
No, there was nothing. We
were on prime time on CHCH, and that's never happened since.
We used to phone in, and we'd phone for somebody to come, and they'd fly in from all over. We had some great guests, Duke Snyder. We had Joe Fraser.
I remember the one funny thing was Mom would call them quite a bit, and so tough saying no to, okay, Mrs. Cherry, I'll come. But it was so hockey back then, and the televising was so limited that a lot of guys who played out west, who let's say parents were in Ontario, never saw their games.
Yeah.
And every guest that we had said, "Can I bring my mom and dad? And can I have a videotape for my friends?" That was all they didn't. Yeah. They never cared about money. I think we gave them $500 or something like that. It wasn't very much.
The jacket, I think.
But they never asked about money and stuff like that. They always wanted to bring their mom and dads. And they said, "Can I bring my mom and dad? Can I bring my family? And can I get a VHS tape to show all my buddies?" Because it was a big deal back then. Because there was maybe 2 games a week on that you could see.
And I think that we had fighters on too. We had Smoking Joe Fraser on, and boy, he never showed up. Holy boy, where is he? Like the show is a half hour away. He's not even here. And what happened was we sent a limo to pick up at the airport, and it got a flat tire.
On the way to Hamilton, got a flat tire. And again, back then there was no cell phones,
no phones or anything like that. And Joe and the chauffeur or the driver said, "I can't fix the tire. I can't change that tire." And here was Smoking Joe on the side of the highway changing the tire. Imagine driving along saying, "Smoking Joe, heavyweight champion of the world, changing the tire." Anybody we phoned came on, and we had Whitey Ford. We had all those guys. Well, Cindy, you worked at. You were behind the bar there or something.
Well, I was, but I'll mention another thing. I don't know you talk about the families coming. I remember Ty Domi said, he came to me after and he says, this is the first time, he goes, in a long time I got my mom out to see something that I did. She didn't go to his games. And she said she had such a good time. She ate a steak dinner and the whole deal. And that was the camaraderie we had. The players, which they were, they knew they were going to have a good time with their family and their kids and their wives. And you were a good interviewer. They knew
all the questions.
They knew all the questions. You weren't going to throw them. You weren't going to throw them a curveball. You weren't going to embarrass them. And it was just a great time. And yes, and the bar in Hamilton. Oh, I was there.
Well, that was. I'd have to say, it turned into a dance bar. There used to be a crowd. If you wanted to get to the front of the restaurant, you had to go around the outside.
You had to wait. But what happened was that the bar, the show, the Grapevine, was kind of, the set was in an Irish pub.
Yeah,
and then it kind of evolved into a real one.
Yeah, and it was really something. But you asked, can I work as a bartender? My mother was not too happy, and remember the time everybody came in, Jim Kelly with the Buffalo.
There was a build, yeah. What year? I think it was the Canada Cup. Was in Hamilton.
Canada Cup.
That night, Cindy, was crazy. That was
really something. Remember, you were behind the bar.
Well, yeah, we had that bar was really hopping. You were saying they were lined up around the block to get into that bar. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, there was a lineup, and it was the place to be. And when
in
Canada
Hamilton.
Cup.
We're in Hamilton.
We were in Hamilton, yeah, of course, around the block, the original. And as you said, Tim, you were the DJ. I worked the bar, and we used to have. Remember when Canada Cup came? And boy, we had all the players in there.
Team Canada came in. Team USA came in,
and then one time the Buffalo Bills came in,
well, they
too.
all came in all at the same time.
All at the same time. So you can imagine at a dance bar having all these players and all. Remember, the whole week they were coming in. Remember about Team Sweden came in during the week. Tell that story, Tim.
Well, that was a great story. I remember when Team Sweden came in. Those guys could put them away pretty good.
Could they ever?
And they said, why we don't bother waiters? Just bring us a case.
That's right.
Bring us a case, and they were drinking by the case out there. I don't know how good hockey players they were, but they could sure put them away.
Well, but then the funny thing was, again, because there wasn't a lot of stuff on TV, they were sitting right in front of we had a big screen, and they said to the waitress, "Do you have any of those hockey fight tapes?" And she says, "Yeah, I think we do." And "Can you put it on?" So they sat and they watched 3 hours of hockey fights.
You never knew who you were going to meet at that bar because it was such a happening place in Hamilton. But we had a good time.
I remember we had a guest on. Maybe I shouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it anyhow. That we didn't like the guests to drink before everything like this. And this guy walked around with a coffee cup, and I said, "Oh, imagine he's drinking coffee. That's really good." And he was sipping out of this coffee cup, and he got on TV and he was talking around.
Well, he was stone sober at the start,
and it was hot. It was really hot in the lights and everything. We had a lot, and we started the conversation, and he knew the question, and in a second he turned. He was drunk, and I said, "What do I do? I kept going the whole deal, and naturally we didn't show the show. But what if Celia would, doing a live, not live, but television show, all these people on, and here was a guy stiffer than a billy goat.
Well, the players, the guests really had a good time. And I remember, Tim, you had a lot of guests on before they were even famous. I remember we had Ben Johnson on.
Yep.
And he brought his girlfriend. It was a Thursday night. And he had a great time. His girlfriend had a good time. And he came in not only that night, Thursday, and Friday and Saturday, just because they had such a good time.
I didn't have a good time.
Well, remember, we should tell the story of Rick Tocchet and Marty McSorley.
Oh, yeah, this is Marty McSorley. We had Marty McSorley and Rick Tocchet.
Well, we should tell everybody, we used to do at least 2 shows a night.
Yeah, two or three shows a night.
So
there's no fun with me. That's why we had to stop.
So we had, we were interviewing Tocchet, and what happened was so Rick Tocchet was on the stage with you, and Marty McSorley was in the crowd just.
Well, he was at the end of the bar,
right.
And I was at and Rick was at the other end of the bar, and I don't know why I asked it. I very quietly, I just had, a hand over my mouth. I said, did you ever go with Marty? And Marty somehow.
Well, remember what Tocchet said. We have Brownie to take care
Yeah,
of
we had
him.
Brownie to take care of him, but it was very quiet. And I don't know how. And somehow or other, Marty knew that we had said something. And he said, "What did you say?" And we said, "Oh, nothing." He said, "What did you say?" And they were going at it right at they were big guys and everything.
Well, what happened was after that show, we took them in the kitchen. In the kitchen, and kind of explained, I explained what was going on. So I was explaining to them, and I could tell that they weren't listening to me, and they were staring at each other. You know, two dogs stare at each other when they're about to fight. They were staring at each other, and should I say what they said?
Yeah, go ahead.
So they were. You could just feel the tension. So I'm looking around. There's all these knives and all these cleavers, and I'm thinking, I'm not that big, and there's these two guys staring at each other. You could just feel the tension. So they were going, they were listening to me. So I said, okay, guys, we're going to go in a couple minutes. So I think Marty said to Tocchet, he goes, Rick, he says, or Talks, whatever he said, he goes, I know, how many games did I play and never seen you in my face? And Tocchet goes, well, he says, I haven't seen you in my face. What, is there an anchor tied around your ass? And you could just see they were just about to go, and they caught themselves. And they both turned around and walked out. And I never checked to see if they ever...
No, I don't know. I tell you, boy.
I was like, what am I going to do if these two guys start
fighting? There was
fighting?
a couple tense moments like that. Tell the story about the Dino and the stuffed toy, the blow-up toy between Probert and... I mean, you think... Dino, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, Dino had this...
a blow-up toy.
A blow-up toy with a dinosaur.
Yeah, because it was when he was in Minnesota... They called him Dino the dinosaur.
Oh yeah,
and everybody had this big brontosaurus blow up dinosaur and waved, and
he brought it to the show.
It to the show. It was like show and tell,
nice.
right?
And I thought it was pretty good. And Probert picked it up and looked at it, and it just exploded. He didn't do anything.
That's right.
He says, "I didn't." And Dino was really
he was
hot.
really. What happened? Because he had his family there, and the wife had brought it. It was his kid's toy.
Yeah.
And Probert broke it.
And Probert says, "Honest, Dino, I didn't do anything. I just touched it, and it exploded." And they were. And I thought, "Wait a minute, Dino, you better be careful."
Well, I think that's what happened. Was like Bob really felt bad. Like he kept saying, Dino, he said, "I'm so sorry." He said, "I don't know. I just touched it and it blew up, and it did. It just exploded into a million pieces."
Yeah, it had to be with Probert.
And he's like, and Dino was, he goes, Probert, that was my kid's toy, and that was the only one was really good. And then you could just see Bob kind of gave him a bit of a stare. And then Dino kind of.
Remember the time we had on the curler? We won't mention his name. And this guy was colorful. This guy was really colorful. And I'm up there, and what we used to do, we used to tell them, what we're going to talk about, so they wouldn't be nervous or anything like that. So I got on with this guy, and I said, "Hey, I understand that you and your brother used to take and learn how to curl. You used to take and throw it." Mm-hmm. Yep. And so the next question, yep. And I, what in the world? This guy's supposed to be colorful, and so Tommy Knight,
was the floor manager. Yeah,
the floor manager. He held up the side. 15 more minutes to go, and I had no questions. And
he went through 26 questions in 5 minutes.
And and he just kept and I'm thinking, so it's all over, and I'm thinking, what in the world? Like what happened?
You could BS your way with hockey players, but curling
I didn't know much about. But I did my best and everything. So I'm fine. I asked him, I said, what in the world went on? And tell him what happened.
Well, we had a new guy. We had a new producer who was working with Jerry Patterson. And the guy went up to him and said, look, he says, this show, we want to keep it fast moving. So we want short, crisp answers.
I remember he had long white hair. We won't mention the guy's name.
So that's what the guy. So he said, "Yeah, I remember him going. Well, you used to throw stones in the barn." Yep. So there was this pause, and okay. And your dad was a really good curler, right? Yeah, he curled for a year.
And this went on and on and on. I'll tell you, boy, we did 3 shows a night, and that's what's happened. We had to stop it because. Why do we? Oh, the trucks. We had the trucks.
Yeah, it was getting pretty expensive. And then what happened was like TSN came on, and at Sportsnet. Well, Sportsnet wasn't yet there, but TSN came on, and it was starting harder to get the players.
And it was awful tough on me, and I didn't need it. I mean, it was holy smokes, three
Well,
shows
I remember
a night.
the one night. Remember the one show we did, and I think it was with it was Kirk Muller. I remember it was Kirk Muller and Eric Lindros we were doing, and remember Sidney Dad got poison. Would you got sumac or oak? Remember that?
Oh yeah, I remember I was out in Vancouver, and I had to fly back, and it broke out. It broke out, and I had at 5 o'clock in the morning. I had to stop, and I all the way back. I had to have cold water, ice on my face. It was broken out, so I did the show, and I had to do it with sunglasses on.
Well, everyone thought that was a fashion statement, and
No,
boy,
my eyes were all
but you
swollen.
had to look good. You were with Kirk Muller, Eric Lindros, and I think Dougie Gilmore. So I mean, you put those three together.
Oh yeah, no. The joke was, I said, "What a beautiful!" I'll tell you, and I'm going on and everything. And remember with Kirk Muller, I mean, we had pretty good looking guys.
Oh,
And
those three.
I forget it was a joke. One of the jokes I said. I forget about it, about something about they were good looking or something.
Well, the Grapevine shows were a lot of fun, and I'll tell you, there's just as much fun after the show because you have to realize it was taped on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So most of the guests stayed afterwards and continued on and having fun that night. And boy, we sure did. Tell the one story, Tim, about Kirk and Eric Lindros in the back taking a rest.
Well, there was. We had Kirk Muller and Eric Lindros, and Eric was pretty young. He only may have been 21 or 22. So you're kind of a young guy, right? And there were so many people looking for autographs and taking pictures back then that we had to kind of put him in the back room just to get a break. So Kirk Muller sat down, and I was kind of with him, and nobody was saying anything. And Eric was had some pictures, and he was signing some. And Kirk Muller was just kind of looking through some hockey magazines, and there was this really good picture of Eric Lindros in the magazine of him after scoring, and he's yelling. And Kirk kind of showed it to him and just say, like, it's a really nice picture of you. And Eric took it and wrote, to Kirk, good luck, best wishes, Eric Lindros.
And Kirk at the time was the Stanley Cup champion, a captain of the Stanley Cup champion. I never forgot that.
He kind of looked, what is this? He kind of looked at it. And he was funny. He started to laugh.
We even had a Bronco buck rider. Remember the
bull rider.
The bull rider. Yeah.
Tough
Holy
guys.
smokes. Oh boy. And they're not very big guys. Very lanky guys.
Yeah. And
Dr. Vincent Nardiello of the New York Rangers and the Madison Square Garden used to treat all the injuries, boxing, the whole deal. And they asked, who's the toughest guys that play in sports? He said, well, hockey players are pretty tough. They're pretty tough. He says, but the toughest players, the toughest guys of all that he's ever seen is the bull riders, and this guy was one of them.
He was one of them, and boy, could he drink. Remember that, Cindy? Like, we were, like, it was over, and he must have put away 10 beers and 10 shooters, and it was like he was drinking lemonade at night, and they kept playing "I Want to Be a Cowboy." That song.
Because Tim, you were the DJ. I think part of the success of the bars was that we had great DJs that knew the music to play, and the music in the '80s was real great dance music, right?
Yeah, that was like the highlight.
The speakers were so big. We had about 4 speakers around the day, and it was hung by chains. It make your heart move. And I tell you, when I was there, it actually they were so loud and so, bass and everything, it make your heart move.
We couldn't get the drinks out fast enough. We had a stand-up bar with 4 bartenders.
Yeah, let me tell you about the bar. I said, I remember this first of all, I'm a dumbhead, and so I get in the bar, and I remember I'm sitting down, and I looked at the menu. We're going to open the menu. We have beef steaky.
We had we first opened it. Well, first of all, we should tell about the bar that was. The bar was in Hamilton. And it was on Main and Walnut, and you walked into it. It would have been a seafood restaurant, right, Cindy? Before?
That's right. It was a seafood. It was empty.
And tell us when you walked into the bar.
We walked into the bar with Gord Badger. And I never forgot. And Jerry Patterson. They were going to be the partners.
And this was the seafood place had closed.
Yeah,
right?
it was 8 months it had been closed, and it looked like somebody had thrown a bomb scare at it. We went in the kitchen. This is a true story. the soup there was a bowl of soup, I remember, with a spoon in it, and it had congealed. Is that the word? It was like somebody had said, bomb, and everybody left. And I said, this is it. And they said, well, we're having no part of it. But I remember it opened, and I said, this is going to be a great restaurant. And you know what? Let's face it, folks. It turned into a band. Cindy, you know.
Yeah, but you were saying that you kind of had it was going to be an Irish.
Well, I thought
sports bar, and the guys that you were working with, tell them what the menu was when you opened.
Oh yeah, I thought the menu. Oh, the menu here: beef and steak and kidney pie, snails, and
cold strawberry soup,
the whole deal. And I said, gee, I don't know. Is this
Sol
right?
Almondine, that was my favorite.
Sol Almondine, imagine for lunch. So I thought it was so I said, look, I don't know much. You guys are in sports and bars and everything. And I said, but I thought it was just going to be a bar or a restaurant that people could grab a salad and get back to work. Oh, no, beef and steak and kidney pie. So they came to me about 3 months later. Don, we've changed our menu. And we feel these people are coming in and out, and we're just going to have salad and sandwich. And I said, oh, isn't that great? And the bars are still going strong. Don Cherry Sports Grill, there's 20 of them around, and we still serve great food, and the beer is always cold.